Now I'd like to share a few experiences and thoughts about becoming authentic. Authenticity has been defined as the degree to which one is true to one's own personality, spirit, or character, despite external pressures. For me, becoming more authentic was a process which began 9 years ago when chronic pelvic pain reared up and pulled me out of my regular life. I was in pain for about a year when I began to notice that whenever I was stressed, my pain would increase. And when I adopted more loving or expanding thoughts, my body would relax and my pain levels would drop. So once I made this connection between my mind and body, the pain became more than simply a physical disease. It evolved into an internal alert mechanism. The discomfort signaled me when areas of my life or my person needed attention, and then it motivated me to change so I could feel better. It was like an obnoxious GPS that kept telling me, "You're off course, you're off course." So for years, when the pain reared up, I took care of my body and I began looking within to see what was happening in my life and what thoughts, emotions, or beliefs had been triggered. I journaled, I spent time in introspection, and I worked with a therapist. So it was a process. But as I lifted up the layers and layers and layers that I had donned to be safe and to survive, I started to glimpse my authentic nature. It was really hard to feel the physical and emotional pain and to not become it. But the more I treated myself with compassion during the struggle, the more I connected with this deeper self. And this was how suffering turned into transformation. But I wasn't changing into somebody else. I was becoming more authentically me. At my mother's funeral, an aunt that I had just seen a handful of times in my life tapped me on the shoulder, and when I turned around, she said, "When you were about 3, you came up to me and smiled and said, 'You're gonna love me.'" And so now that joyful, confident, and impish me shines forth just a little bit more in my life. So let me tell you, becoming authentic was definitely not about becoming perfect. In fact, it was, and it still is, the struggle with my imperfections, with my flaws, and my weaknesses that leads to greater self-knowledge. Leonard Cohen says it well. "Ring the bells that can still ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything, and that's how the light gets in." So I began sharing my healing experiences about 4 years into this process, and I found that I wasn't unique. And here's an example that happened about 4 years into healing. So I was lying on my back at the end of a yoga class on the bluff in Long Beach, and I heard this rumbling sound that seemed to move through my whole body, and I thought it was some kind of construction noise, and it made me laugh to think that the whole class was being disrupted by it. But when I got up to leave, I saw the guy behind me was playing this long hollowed-out pipe called a didgeridoo. And so I introduced myself to this musician, and I found out his name was Brett, and another woman joined us named Marissa. And the conversation moved quickly from the music to our professions to our lives. And I shared with both of them how this journey through pain had been helping me reconnect with the authentic me. Marissa told us that her parents died when she was 12, and she had traveled around the world, and as she met people of different cultures, she started to understand herself. And Brett was a composer for the film industry, and when he read the book, The Mysticism of Music, he said he started to appreciate the vibrational quality of music and of all of nature. And then he started to feel more connected to himself and everything around him in a deeper way. Marissa confided that she was always fiercely independent, and now she understood that this was her way to survive, and that healing was allowing herself to become vulnerable. And this was absolutely true for me too. So we talked about how we struggled with the challenges of life and our imperfections, and how strange it was that these very challenges helped us open up. We lamented that the process wasn't easy, and just when we thought we'd arrived, we were challenged again. And we all agreed that the biggest thing we were learning was to accept and love all parts of ourselves, and to be brave enough to shine forth whom we really were deep down. Marissa said, "I know it sounds so cliche, but the journey is really everything." So over the years, I've met many intimate strangers meant just for me, just like Brett and Marissa. And I've seen that even though the details are different, this process of becoming authentic has a lot of similar characteristics, for everybody. When we become more authentic, we experience our humanness with our eyes wide open, and we learn and grow from the experience. And when we become more authentic, we allow ourselves to be seen.